Hello and welcome to Beauty by Jen. If you have or if you haven't been here, thank you for being here. Thank you for being patient as I do my very first live ever. I do appreciate it. You probably aren't even here yet, but if you are here, thank you. Today, I am going to be talking about demons with my special guest. And I know that we all usually talk a lot about God, but we rarely talk about the devil or demons or do they exist? Do you believe they exist? So, anyways, I'm gonna bring on my special guest. Oh, and let me just make one disclaimer. Anything could go wrong tonight because I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, so this is my first time doing a live. I have jitters, of course. I'm only human. I don't have a clue what I'm doing. I've been practicing all week. I'm sure some of you have seen those tests I've been doing. I tried to practice. Everything doesn't always go right. So if something happens, I'll try to cut out and fix it. So please bear with me. I do appreciate it. So without further ado, I'm going to switch over to my guest. And hi, Ken. How are you doing today?
For having me.
See, we already had a disaster because when you were saying that, you weren't on, but now you're on. And that was my fault because I had the microphone off. But how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, and I hope you're doing well too. And I appreciate your bringing me on here. Um, I think we're going to have a real fun time.
Thank
It's
you.
it's an interesting topic. I know I've heard a lot of people discuss it in varying ways, and everything from believers to atheists to agnostics. I hope they all chime in. Uh, as far as I'm concerned, I'll make my outlook clear right now. Is that I do not subscribe to organized religion in any way, shape, or form. But that does not stop me from carrying with me the tenets for coexisting in peace with my fellow man. So some have noticed that in the comments section, I have replied to them in a very respectful and sedate manner. That is the way I do things. So don't be afraid to speak your mind. That's what we're all about.
Okay, so that was great, Ken. I'm going to put you on the big screen right now so you can say a couple of things. And you have already. So I'm just going to let you say a couple of things just to tell people anything about yourself that you feel nothing, no pressure. So one moment. Go.
All right. Well, welcome, people. And as I say, we're open to any and all opinions. I still have no idea what makes me so special, but only Jen can tell you that. but but I can say this is that there are things, forces in the universe that we know nothing about. And in an attempt to understand them, we will invariably give them a form and a shape. And this is where we are talking about demons and angels. Now, in the beginning, oddly enough, demons were not regarded as evil. They were simply messengers. It was not until the advent of Christianity and some of the Muslim faiths that this propensity to evil began to be professed. And it's not long after that, in fact, the demons were given the most unholy shapes you have ever seen. Animal man hybrids, all manner of alien creatures. And this was all done, to my understanding, to, first of all, give something for people to focus on, because abstract ideas were not that easy to comprehend back in the days of, medieval, the crusade, things like that. So by giving a form and a shape to these entities, it made them easier to focus on. And by making them horrifying, it also gave the church control over the lower classes, who were obviously poorly educated. It made them easier to control through fear.
Okay, I'm sorry, Ken. I didn't mean to cut you off because you are giving them so much so soon. So let's try to slow it down a little bit, right? Okay. So this is perfect. This is perfect. No, what you did there was perfect because we are going to get into all of that. I got notes and everything, right? But I just wanted to make like a quick premise. So I did a few polls before we started this live today. So in the past few days, I've been doing some polls. So the first one, oh, excuse me. The first one I did was, do you believe demons exist? And 2.6K people voted. 58% of the people said yes. 27% of the people said no. 14% of the people said they weren't sure. And 1% were just other. Because I always try to add other. Some people just don't know anything. And then I did another poll and I asked, do you think Lucifer was the first demon? Out of 458 voters, 39% said yes, 29% said no, 21% said demons don't exist, and 10% just weren't sure. I did one more poll and I asked, have you ever read the Satanic Bible, or have you ever read the book of Abramelin, the book of the sacred magic of Abramelin the Mage?
Yeah.
For 173 voters, out of 7% of them read the Satanic Bible, and 1% of them read the sacred book. So what do you make of that?
Well, let's see. Let's take them one at a time. First of all, do I think demons exist? For myself, I would say no. But there is a caveat, because basically, in the way I look at it, the way I look at something like this, is that it has been known that people can bring these things into being simply by being of the right state of mind or enough people in the right state of mind can actually give these things material form. And, you hear things like, well, for example, the Mothman. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he is what they call a klepto creature. Nobody's ever really photographed it, but people will swear that it exists. That is their belief. It has yet to be proved. Now, as far as demons go, I think those were essentially a creation of man. Because again, it comes down to the abstract concept of good and evil. What is good? What is evil? And you need two sides to make it work. Now, as far as Lucifer being the first demon, I would again have to say no. Because Lucifer's, shall we say, crime was simply getting Adam and Eve to eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Now, as far as I know, and this is how I put it in the comments section, as far as I know, only animals do not know the difference between good and evil. Unless we, as their, so to speak, gods, teach them this. Like, for example, teaching your house cat not to claw the furniture. But you got to teach them that's wrong. You got to teach them to go into the scratching post is what they want to do. There's right and wrong there. It's a taught thing. So basically, what Lucifer was trying to do was, in my opinion, make people less animal and more human. And for whatever odd reason, God took exception to that. Now, as far as him being given the fruit of a serpent, that again is a manipulation. If you look, there are two essential creatures that humans have an inherent revulsion for. One is spiders. Anything with anything with 8 legs or more, it makes people go ew. And snakes. People think of them as slithery, slimy, and all that. When in fact they're not. They are dry. They're sinuous. They feel funny in your hand. But basically, there's no reason to revile them. But this is how the church worked it. So, by working on people's basic revulsions and fears, they vilified Lucifer by giving him the form of a snake. When in fact, it probably was not that way at all. But his only crime was trying to make us more human. And that's where I kind of lose contact with organized religion. As far as reading those two books, I have read neither. I have never really felt the need to read either of them, although I know that they're probably what the content is going to be. And as I mentioned to one lady in the comments section, people are entitled to worship whatever deities they choose in whatever manner they choose to do it. It's a way of gaining a sense of security and community. And I would never judge anyone for that. It's a basic human need to be part of something. And if this is how they do it, more power to them. Now, I have heard varying opinions about Satanism. I've heard from some that it's a relatively peaceful thing. And I've heard from others that it's, sinister and bloodthirsty and they, sacrifice babies and all this kind of thing. I don't know. I've never been to one, and I don't really feel the need to be to one. But again, it's what you choose to do. I have my own beliefs, and they just do not involve any of the concepts brought forth by the church or organized religion. because there are too many contradictions. So, and let's see, the third one was, let's see, do demons exist?
Mm-hmm.
Have I read the book? What was that third one? Oh yeah, Rules for Being the First Demon. So yeah, basically I've covered all three areas.
Yes.
And so those are my viewpoints. But just to clarify, the way I look at it is more of that there has been a pervading force throughout the entire universe since nearly the beginning of the universe. And what it consists of is the collective consciousness of all the races in the entire universe who have lived before us. It is the sum of all knowledge. It's a place where time has no meaning and space doesn't exist. It's simply this place simply is, and it's neither good nor bad. It is neutral. And when people tap into it, then they have a choice. And this is, and remember, you and I discussed this before. They have a choice. You can use it to help or you can use it to hinder. If you use it to hinder, then you are going to be paying a price for it. If you use it to help, good things will be returned to you. It's like a form of karma. Nothing is free. And in one way or another, you will pay for what you do. So I guess for lack of any term, be careful what you wish for. You might just get it.
Okay, well, let me just chime in really quickly. So, like you said, I haven't read any of those books either. And usually most people have read the Bible or the Quran or there's the Torah. And please, anyone, if I leave out any book or any manuals, please forgive me. But most people have read those books. But I know there are people who believe in the teachings from the satanic book. Now, the Bible has been here for eons, but from my research, the satanic book was written in 1969, and I could be wrong, by a guy named Mr. LeVay or something like that. Let me, but so even though good and evil has been around for eons, since way when the Bible was written, why do you think it took so long for the satanic book to come out? Or like maybe it was out and people didn't want to reference it or talk about it?
Hmm. It may have started as like an underground movement. Um, these people probably did worship Satan, but they didn't want to make it well known. An equivalent situation, if it's a weak analogy, but it worked. But think of the French resistance during World War II. Only 3 people at a time knew where anybody was or who anybody was. They didn't spread it any farther than that. And there were these triads of 3. This is what made the French resistance so hard to break up and so hard to uncover. It drove the Germans crazy. This was probably much the same as the Satanists. They did not divulge readily anything to anyone that they didn't trust implicitly, or that they would be sure that the people they were talking to would share these viewpoints. Because, well, let's face it, back then, if you worship Satan, you were immediately strung up and killed. So I would say it probably started off very small, very quiet. And again, because of the balance that has to be maintained in the universe, if you have one, you have the other. And I have no doubt that, I mean, Satan worship and the idea of collaborating with malevolent spirits or witches keeping what they call familiars. I don't know if you've ever heard the term. Familiars were usually given the form of black cats. This is why you almost never saw many black cats in places like medieval London or any of these larger cities. Black cats were automatically considered to be evil, and they were summarily killed. But even back then, you had people, either in groups or isolated, who worshipped the dark powers. And it has been going on for even longer than, even before the Bible was even written. This was going on because there are always those who, and I think you remember reading this in the comments as well, but there are always those who want to delve into the dark side. Either they have a purpose for doing it or they have just an idle curiosity. But either way, they discover it. They either embrace it or they back away from it.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, like I say, as far as worshiping the dark side, it goes back to civilizations that predated the Christians.
Okay, so just to caveat off of that, and again, I'm not trying to push anything on anyone or say I know exactly how everything happened, but from my general understanding, essentially, God is in heaven, the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, and Satan too resided there. He was an angel. Some people still consider him to be an angel. He was an angel who was jealous of God. He was God's greatest worshiper, God's musician, God's greatest worshiper, but he became jealous of God. And that's when he was banned from heaven. He was banned along with people, well, along with the angels who followed him. They were all banned and sent down and basically given permission to wreak havoc on the world until their final doom done by God himself. Do you think that makes sense or do you think that doesn't make
And it makes some sense. It's in some ways it's like saying to a criminal, I know you're a criminal. I know you rebelled against society, but I'm going to let you go anyway. And you go do what you want. That part of it doesn't make much sense because basically, and this is maybe why God banished. I'm going to call him Lucifer because that was his original name. Lucifer meaning light bearer. This is probably why Lucifer and his followers were banished to the nether regions. And it was probably meant to be a prison. Now, how they come from this region to harass or tempt humans is a process I'm not familiar with. Is it one where they have the power to do so? Or is it that humans give them a portal by being evil, by thinking evil, by doing evil? They give them this portal to come from the middle regions and come up to the earth. Because in one religion, and I cannot recall it at the moment, I think it was a Middle Eastern religion, but there were three realms. The one realm was the celestial, which was, where the gods lived. The second realm was terrestrial, where we are. The third realm was subterranean, which is where those guys are. So you had these three realms. Now, we're kind of caught in the middle. Do we believe God? Do we believe Satan? This is where the vagaries of the human mind come in, because I am not entirely convinced that we are all God's creations. If we were, would we not then carry the perfection or the serenity that God would provide? Instead, we have people who are tormented. They have their own hell on earth, and they aren't even dead. And it is these people who open up the portals for these beings down below to come up and harass us. You've seen maybe one or two horror movies where, for example, teenagers get a hold of a Ouija board, and they get the Ouija board going and going and going, and all of a sudden they have loosed upon themselves and the world a demon, simply because they were all of the same mindset, and they used the process for bringing these demons forth. So, like I said, the question remains, can these demons come up of their own accord, or do we allow them to?
Well, I believe that that portal you're talking about, I believe that that first portal was actually opened by Adam and Eve. If people subscribe to that, from my understanding, because they were the first humans to invite Satan, Lucifer, the dark angel, the light bearer, whatever we refer to him as, they were the first people to initiate him being with all of us. And I also believe that even though God gives us free will, we aren't always going to use that free will in a manner that is beneficial to us, because he doesn't want to control us, and he gives us decisions to make, and it's up to us to make the right decision, if that means anything. Like, from my understanding, again, I don't want to push anything on anyone. I'm not trying to do that. But from my understanding, we have free will. So he's not going to make us perfect because he is the only perfect being. If that meant, like, we aren't gonna be perfect. Like, because if we were perfect, then everybody would be God. And from my understanding, he doesn't want us all to be God. He does want us to be happy and make free choices, but he doesn't want us to be like robots either. Like, okay, you're gonna be perfect. You're gonna be perfect. You're gonna be this. Like, I don't think that would. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Uh, it's an interesting thought. Uh, you see, this is where I have trouble with the book of Genesis, is that why was it a crime or a blasphemy or a sacrilege, however you want to term it? Why was that so when all Lucifer wanted to do was bring us up from a state of being animals to more one step closer to being human? The knowledge of good and evil, uh, like I say, animals don't know the difference. We do and should, although sometimes I wonder. But um, I really don't see what was wrong with that, because by giving us that ability, he gave us um, he gave us the chance. He, we were given an opportunity to show that we can make a choice between good and evil. Now, I don't think that Lucifer really had any malicious intentions when he did that. Because, as I say, if God did not want us to have the knowledge of good and evil, we would be little more than animals, livestock. And somehow that doesn't sit right with me. We are human. And as such, we should be able to distinguish or be given the ability to distinguish that which is right and that which is wrong. Now, the only downside of that, and this is where we have the yin and the yang. On the one hand, like take for example the splitting of the atom. On the one hand, it gives us atomic reactors. It gives us virtually limitless power for decades to come. On the other hand, you can blow up entire cities, which they've already done. Everything can be corrupted and twisted, and it's up to man to be able to harness himself not to do that. And it's so much easier to destroy. It takes no brains, takes very little effort, but people will destroy. And it's so much more brain power and imagination to create and to build and to invent. And this is sometimes what I find baffling about the human race is, are we the demons? Sometimes I really have to wonder, because some of the people that walk this planet right now in positions of power have no conscience, they have no empathy, and they have no regrets about anything they're doing.
Well, to answer that question, I would say I wouldn't say that we are the demons, but I would say that if you believe in demons or not, something is influencing people. And it's not always just mental health. Like, I know a lot of times people are is like, oh, he's mentally ill, she's mentally ill, men- mental illness. I think those are forces. And I wish that I have read other manuals besides the Bible, because I want to know, like, do they reference in there people being manipulated by evil forces? Because this goes on every day, every second. Somebody is being manipulated by an evil force, believe it or not. Like, this just isn't made up. And like the media or individuals would put it under the guise of mental health illness, when that person is actually being tormented by principles unknown to us that was stated by Jesus, I'm sorry, in the Bible. Like, he said, there are going to be these principles, dark forces that we are not aware of. We have to be vigilant of those things because they come in and it's hard to get rid of them. And they disguise themselves as light and they manipulate us and destroy us. But people don't believe things in certain books. So how do you explain to that person who doesn't believe that there are forces out there that take advantage of people, manipulate their minds? Like, when we think about all the killings and the senseless killings, and like people are taking away their own mothers, their own children. I don't think that's I think that's more than just mental illness. That's evil and darkness. What do you think about that?
Well, it's a distinct possibility. I have heard of um, semi documented cases of demonic possession. Um, oddly enough. Have you ever seen or heard of the movie called The Exorcist?
Oh yeah, and I don't ever watch it anymore because I believe that stuff really does happen.
Hmm. There are, and if you dig hard enough, you'll find them. Um, they're usually buried fairly deep in the archives of the Catholic Church. They were the ones actually who did most of the exorcisms that you'll discover if you dig for them. But there are cases of levitation, projectile vomiting, super strength, none of which was benevolent. This was all done maliciously by the victim. So I have no doubt that there were forces at work that caused these people to behave like this and do these unspeakable acts. And it's
And
again, it's one of those things where, you know, help or hinder.
and oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's your turn.
And I honestly don't think that every every priest or pastor or minister, I don't think they are equipped to actually deal with those real forces out there. I don't think the church, I don't want to say as a whole that would be doing a disservice, but I don't think a lot of people in high positions in the church are actually equipped to deal with that day-to-day prevalent force that individuals are dealing with daily. Um, I used to go to church a lot, right? And I felt like I never actually felt like I ever found peace in church, believe it or not. Maybe some sort of peace, but I just felt like week after week we're all going to church and we are leaving with the same problems, the same feelings, the same downtroddenness that we have every single week. Like, it's never, I know now I've been like reading a lot and hearing a lot about deliverance ministries, but it's like the pastors are either corrupt, the ministers are corrupt, they have no moral standing. Uh, I might as well be the minister. I don't know what I'm doing, but I might as well be the minister because everybody's breaking the rules. Nobody's living, and I'm not saying that they should be above reproach, but I think like if you're in a position like that, you shouldn't be leading people astray. You should carry yourself as the leader that you are supposed to be by whoever, whatever higher authority, whatever you believe in, gave you to be. Like, I don't believe, like, oh, well, the pastor slept with 5 women in the church, but that's okay. We'll still worship him because he's not perfect. Then he shouldn't be the pastor then. Why doesn't he step down and let the person who really has a heart to take care of the flock like they're supposed to? Like, I just think it's so much corruption and greed, and nobody's taking it seriously. They just want a title and they want a position and they just want the notoriety of being a pastor or a minister. Like, what do you think about that?
You've got a very good point. And think about the Bible and Christ's first teachings. Did he do this in a temple? Did he do it in a cathedral? Did he do it in a chapel? No, he did it out in the open because, and it says so right in the Bible, And I think even Jesus, he says, the kingdom of God is within you. It's not behind a set of closed doors with colored glass in the windows. Um, and it's certainly not um, going to be aided by a man with red robes like a cardinal. What's happened is that the church or churches have become, shall we say, structured. Now, back in the days when Jesus was walking the earth, there were no such things as bishops, cardinals, pastors, priests. Uh, he didn't actually buy into any of that, and he said so. So, with that to consider, where then does all of this, and I call it flummery because that's exactly what it is. Get down on your knees, stand up. Get down on your knees, stand up. Do this, do that, genuflect. If you don't do it this way, you're a heathen. If you don't do it that way, then you're going to hell. I mean, there are any number of different Christian religions. I mean, look at what's happened. You've got the Lutherans, and you've got the Presbyterians, and you've got the Orthodox, and you've got the unorthodox, and you've got all of these splinters that came off the same origin. That's because they think that their God or their version thereof is better than anybody else's. So what they've done basically is they have made themselves demons. They have taken a simple, basic principle and corrupted it. They've twisted it. Like, for example, when did Jesus ever demand any money from anyone? He never did. But yet, you have to pay your tithe to the church. Why? Why do they need money? They don't pay taxes. And not only that, but nowadays, even more so than back then, because let's face it, the Church of England and basically controlled England until Henry VIII came along and he didn't like the idea and he tried to usurp the power. But that's where now you have a conflict of church and state. The two are supposed to be separate, but now you have groups of people who are trying to make the two merge together. So what you have is the ultimate corruption of both. The church is no longer the church and the state is no longer the state. It's some hybrid combination between, which is never going to work. And it's going to destroy society. This is what I call a demonic world. And it all comes down to people who have said, no, this religion is no good. I'm going to make another one. Well, why do you want to make another one? So that you can control that, use it to your own advantage, keep people under, make them subservient. That is the demon's work. And this is really frustrating, but this is the way I look at it. This should never have happened, but it is, and it's spreading.
Well, let me say this. I think everything you just said is why the angel of darkness, light, whichever category you want to put him in, is doing his job right now. He's able to do everything he's doing because the churches aren't organized enough to be one group and fight. Like they're too busy worrying about, oh, I wore my new dress to church today, or oh, look at me. Oh, it's my anniversary, my pastor's anniversary, and all this, that, and the other. And that's why Satan is able to run amok and fool everyone, and anyone who is hopeless, any glimpse of hope, they can't even investigate it. It's like, oh, this must be a good thing. I'm taking it. And it could be something that's not even good for them. Like I remember, and I've done a lot of things. believe it or not. But I remember there was a time that I felt so lost. Like I felt like I'm not hearing from God. I'm not getting anything from church. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And I went and saw a palm reader person. Now, if you know anything about a palm reader person in the Bible, that is a no go. You do not do that. You are opening up things. You don't need to be doing that. But just needing to know, like, where's my life going? What's going on? I went there, you know, and I saw like these like pictures, like the pictures of Jesus, even though we don't know what Jesus looks like. It's like
Mm.
pictures of Jesus. And I even second guessed myself. I was like, is this like a godly place, a Christian place? And she was like, oh yeah, yeah, of course it is. Knowing what I know now and not knowing then, it was not. And I probably opened up so much stuff to go wrong in my life that could have that could be affecting me to this day and I don't even know. But it's just when people are hopeless and they do go to the real church to find hope, to understand, to get lessons on why their life is not going so well or how to cope with their life when it's not going well and they don't get answers, they seek out things that are not of God to get an answer to their questions, which opens up more things, more portals. So what do you think about when people go to like readers or like sayers just to see what's going on or what they should do, or what do you think about that?
Well, it's been an inherent desire of men to know what is to come, because the uncertainty of the future has always been a fear. I mean, it's a case of here be dragons, and they've always wanted. Let's look at the Oracle of Delphi in ancient Greece, right? People wanted to know what's to come. They went to the Oracle. She told them what was, and she did it, sometimes in fairly cryptic manner, but she told them what they could expect. It was up to them to do what they wanted to do with that information. Now, as far as palm reading goes, I don't see anything particularly occult in it. With respect to, like, you know, Satan worship, so to speak. Actually, as far, if memory serves me correctly, palm reading was not even a part of that. No more so than a crystal ball, or reading tea leaves, or looking at the stars. The zodiac. None of that really um, had anything to do with Satanism. It's an innate desire of man to know what is coming, because the uncertainty drives them crazy. Um, Great rulers have done it. Common people have done it. It's all down the ages. It's been that way, and it does not surprise me at all um, that some unscrupulous individuals posing as seers, soothsayers, whatever you want to call them, would, for the purposes of, shall we say, seeding the seeds of destruction, disseminate bad information. Um, there have been cases where, um, conquering leaders have said, okay, well, what's in the stars for me today? And so they get the forecast and they go out to battle and they get massacred. Well, whose fault was that? So, really, when it comes down to it, I don't think there's really, as far as any of the sideshow stuff goes, I don't think there's really any way of foretelling the future with any degree of accuracy. Now, that's not to say that it can't happen. And in fact, I have a personal experience that I can relate to illustrate that very point. This goes back to December 22nd, 1966. I was a teenager. I was living in Deep River. 3 days before Christmas, I had what I would call the stupidest dream, one of the stupidest dreams I've ever had. And what happened was that it was myself, my stepfather, my mother, and then 3 of their friends around the supper table. It, the supper had already been eaten, the dishes were cleared away, and I knew in this dream that my brother had been there and already gone with a buddy of his. All of this was foregone. So all the adults were sitting around the table playing cards. And I was just like kind of kibitzing, standing around watching just to see what was going to happen. Now, I was standing between my mother and one of our friends. And this one friend of ours, he's a real card. He's got an unbelievable sense of humor, and he'll do anything for a laugh. So anyway, they were playing this card game, and I was standing there watching, and in the dream, I did not know what this card game was. But what I did know was that my mother had some cards in her hand that she could play to absolutely demolish the guy next to her. And she goes and plays some stupid card that doesn't do anything. And so this buddy of ours turns to her and he says, have you ever considered joining the ARC school for welding? And that's where the dream ended. And essentially, I forgot all about it. So December 25th rolls around. We're at a friend of ours' place. My brother's eating supper. He's come and gone with Bob Corey, one of his buddies. I'm standing around watching the adults playing cards. They're playing Crazy Eights. I don't know if you've ever played Crazy Eights, but oh, it's got some deadly cards in it. Anyway, I'm standing between my mother and this friend of hers. I think his name was Bill. Anyway, I could see that she had just some poisonous cards in her hand. I mean, if it was me, I would have pounced on it immediately. But anyway, her turn comes around, and she could have laid out like any number of bad cards to the guy next to her. And she basically throws down a card that means absolutely nothing and does absolutely nothing. And this buddy turns to her and he says the exact words in my dream. Have you ever thought of joining the ARC school for welding? And I just about fell over. It was like a glass wall had been lifted from between us. And I had to tell him, I had to ask him, I said, did you ever say that before? To anybody? And he looked at me as if I'd lost my mind, and he said, well, no. And then it dawned on me that I had had a dream about this very situation 3 days prior in all the details except for the cards. And that has stayed with me for my entire life since I was like 14 or 15.
Wow.
And it was a completely mundane thing. It was not world shaking. World affairs went on regardless, but it was absolutely accurate.
So, do you feel like that message came from a good place or a bad place, or you don't even know? You just feel like it worked out for you, of course.
It came, well, this goes back to what I was saying about what I think the force is that pervades the universe. It's essentially a benign force. And this is a perfect illustration because the prognostic dream that I had was absolutely and completely benign. It didn't have any really negative aspect to it. It didn't have any really positive aspects to it. It was just an everyday situation that I dreamed about. It was just absolutely mundane. And I will never forget that. The only other thing that I can remember about dreams is that occasionally, and these dreams were terrifying. Occasionally, I would have a dream where an airplane, like a big airliner, would crash into a city. Had no idea why. It was absolutely terrifying. After 9/11, I didn't have any more of those dreams. I've never had one since. So I don't know. You tell me.
Well, as far as dreams go, we don't even want to talk about dreams because my dreams are deadly. Like every time I dream, I feel like I'm not gonna be here tomorrow because I don't
Right.
know. I have really horrible dreams. Like now they have subsided. Thank you, God. Thank you for me, God. Jesus, thank you. Because like my dreams, like I remember those familiars you were talking about earlier. I
Mhm,
have the familiars in my dreams. And for me, like I think you had referenced like cats or something. But for
mhm,
me, the familiars are people who have passed on. People who well, they aren't the familiars for me are imitating people who have passed on. Like the familiars in my dreams are, oh, my father passed away, but this thing in my dream is pretending to be my father. Like
mm,
it has monitored. That's what familiars do. They're monitoring spirits. They monitor your whole life. They monitor the people in your life. And what they do is they make you feel comfortable like, "Oh, yeah, I'm your father," like, "Yeah, I'm your father," but your father is passed on, and then and from what I believe, you aren't supposed to even communicate with people who have passed on. Let the dead be dead. That's the lesson. Let the dead be dead. Like, they're gone, they're wherever they are, and you are still here, and you are to have no communication with them, but they come in my dreams and of course when you're dreaming it's hard for you to be like no I'm not supposed to be talking. You're like, oh wow, my father or my cousin, my whoever, like, oh, they're here to talk to me. They want to have I like being with this around this person, and now they're in my dream, which isn't really them. Familiar spirit, monitoring spirit, manipulating you into contracts in your dream. And I know I sound crazy. I know I sound crazy. But it's like they are manipulating you in the spiritual realm to wreak havoc in the natural realm. Like those agreements and pacts you're making in that dream in the spiritual realm is affecting the natural realm. I learned that you aren't supposed to eat in your dreams. They're feeding you poison. Don't sign things in your dreams. You're signing contracts with something evil. Don't pick up money in your dreams. It's the opposite in the natural realm. You will go broke. This is what I've learned. And I believe that I needed to learn those lessons because I wasn't learning those lessons in church. I wasn't learning those lessons in church. The thing that you said about tithing, you are right. We aren't supposed to be doing that. You're supposed to give your money to the poor and stuff like that. But it's no rule that they should be passing around a bucket or you should be writing checks or debit carding. That you're absolutely right. But I think as a whole, like people don't know that stuff and they just continue to like follow these made up rules when the real rules are out there that I was talking about, that spiritual realm wreaking havoc on us, making you crazy, making you sick, making women barren. Like those are like evil things that you are supposed to be fighting against. Those evil things you're supposed to be fighting against. Fasting, you know, I don't want to say pray, but meditate, however everyone wants to say it. I don't know. Fasting, meditate, prayer, like to get rid of those demons, those devils. Like, if you had family members, well, I don't want to say people had family members. You may have had family members who, deal in the occult, you know, they think like, "Oh, I can help you. I'm just gonna give you this little bath or whatever, uh, this little herbs." Like all those from what I learned are not the way to get the actual help you need, and you will probably get help temporarily. But remember when I asked you, when you told me the story about you had told me a few stories, and you said like, some good things had happened. uh Someone tried to take your idea, or something like that. It was a job you had. I don't want to.
Yeah, it was a
And
suggestion box idea.
right, and they ended up losing their job, I'm sorry, I did take notes on that. But the point I was trying to make is, and I was asking, like, if you ever felt like whatever that may have been that helped you get retribution, if you felt like it would come back for repayment. Now, I don't know if that thing was good or bad. I don't know. But in my mind, for how things operate in my life, I feel like sometimes good things happen to us that aren't actually good, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but I feel like every good thing that happens for us, and I'm not saying your situation in particular, but for me, I feel like maybe every good thing that happens wasn't meant for good. Like, it may have been something in there that, okay, you got this, now you owe me that. I remember, and I know I'm rambling, but I remember at a previous job I had, there was this guy, and he said he was from Haiti. Big ups to the people in Haiti, whoever lives in Haiti. And he said that a large number of them, um like, they believe in voodoo or whatever. And I was like, "Oh, really?" I was intrigued. I'm always intrigued. I want to know, like, tell me more. So he said that a lot of times they would go to these voodoo priests or whatever. I don't know if they have like a specific name, so if I get that wrong, I apologize. But they would go to these um voodoo priests. He said even at work, people had asked him, like, if he could recommend a voodoo priest to help them achieve something that they couldn't achieve. And he said he always had to tell them that, hey, that voodoo priest or a priestess or whatever you call them, they can help you out, but believe they are coming back to get what you owe them for getting that help. And that's why I was asking you, and I don't even know, like, if I don't want to assume it was from a bad place that you got your retribution, but that's where I got that concern from, because I was thinking, like, if it was something that wasn't so good, do you fear that it may want repayment?
Hmm. It's
I'm sorry.
um, no, no, you're not rambling. You made a very good argument. Um, Actually, in terms of all three, um, consider consider this: you have done nothing to offend these people. You've done good work. You've been to work consistently. You've obeyed all the company rules. You've lived by their standards. And then all of a sudden, when you know, like, to be specific, this is how the first one went with Northern Telecom. I came up with a suggestion that would have saved them $1,000 a day, $30,000 a month. Well, they said that, if there's enough monetary gain in it for them, that there would be a suggestion box reward for this suggestion. So I made my suggestion. I knew exactly what the machine was that they needed. I had the right terminology for it. I went through all the right procedures. I waited and I waited and I waited and I waited. Finally, in through the shipping doors comes a $20,000 vapor degreaser, exactly like I had told them to get. After that, I hear nothing, months. So I went to my section manager. I said, what is going on? That machine over there was my idea. It's saving you $1,000 a day. What do I get out of it? You told me that this was your procedure, that I would get a monetary reward for this suggestion, and I've got squat. So tell me. And they came up with some kind of cock and bull story that I simply could not believe. And I said, enough. Talk is cheap. I quit. So what would you do? They never even investigated it. So, like what they want. I didn't deserve that kind of treatment. I did it for the benefit of the company, and I got stabbed in the back. So for me, my retribution was righteous and just. They deserved everything they got. Now, in terms of, and of course, what happened was, I wouldn't have known any of this, except that I was on very good terms with one of their technicians. And I happened to meet him in a shopping mall. And he said, oh boy, when you left, you should have seen what happened. I got the retributions, firings, all kinds of things happening. And then finally, the whole plant just up and shut down. So that's what happened then. And I don't feel guilty about it. I mean, if somebody pushes me, I'm going to push back with any means that I have. Now, in terms of the Bingo Paper Company, that was an act of deliberate sabotage. And again, I give this company 24 years of faithful service, almost a quarter century. I do good work. I gave them a clientele. I gave them a reputation. And he turns around and pulls the one piece of equipment out of my shop that completely disables my ability to test and repair anything. I ask him repeatedly, where is it? I need it back. I've got repairs to do. Where is it? I need it back. I have repairs to do. Well, finally, after he tried to stick me in shipping, and I injured my shoulder because of it, eventually vacation time comes around, and I make a suggestion to him that he didn't like. And he said, come in and collect your pay slip. So, okay. So that's when he fired me. So I thought, well, fine. That's the way you're going to be. Here I give your company all this service, all this good reputation that not only basically pervaded the province, like we were known all the way up to Grand Prairie in Alberta, all the way down south, right to the border. We were known to the Queen Charlotte Islands off the coast of BC, and also as far east as Quebec. That I gave that all of that. And I got stabbed in the back. So, again, was I justified in laying a curse on them? Yeah, because what they did to me was unjustifiable. There was no excuse for it. So, that's why the guy got cancer, and that's why the Bingo Paper Company shut down after about 2 years. And then finally, this business with my brother's car. Up in Canada, here, we have a brand new statutory holiday. Now, you probably have not heard much about residential schools. It was a horrific thing done jointly by the Catholic Church, the Presbyterian Church, and the Canadian government. What it was nothing more than attempted genocide. What they did was they grabbed all kinds of Indian kids and stuck them in these special schools with this one request. You kill the Indian, leave the child. In other words, what they wanted was to indoctrinate these kids to forget all about their Indian heritage. They were treated like dirt. And the government and the church tried to cover it up. Now, and you can look this up, it is horrifying. There are more than 600 unmarked graves in various locations where these kids died and were simply dumped in a hole like garbage. So, now that it all comes to light, now we have what is called Truth and Reconciliation Day, where this atrocity has finally been recognized and it's being celebrated in a way that it should be. Remembrance, just like Remembrance Day. So it was on this particular day that an Indian tried to steal my brother's car, and he succeeded. My brother saw the guy driving horses at a gas station. My brother saw him, ran out to the car, tried to get into the car, but the door was locked. He got hit in the head with one of the roof racks. This right here, an inch lower, and he would have lost his eye. He injured his hip. He fell on his side. He didn't know anything about what happened until he woke up in an ambulance being driven to Calgary. And I thought, yeah, here we are, Truth and Reconciliation Day, and an Indian guy steals his car. I said, it just infuriated me. I hate it when people do stuff like that. And I cursed him, and I cursed everybody he was with. And that's when 2 days later, 2 days, the Calgary City Police, they got the car. It was dirty. It was a little bit of damage done to it, but it was still drivable. And they arrested 3 people who were associated with the theft. So again, you tell me, it's and they call it, and it's called righteous retribution. It's an effective term. These people, and I hope they get charged. The police, the RCMP, and the Calgary City Police are still building a case against these people, and I hope they get the book thrown at them. But this is what righteous retribution is all about.
So, go ahead.
It's when you get wronged for no fault of your own by people who don't give a damn.
So, okay, like you've said a few times that you cursed them. Like, how did you curse? Like, did you just say this is gonna happen, or will it, or how did you curse them? Like, what did you do to curse them?
It wasn't a mantra. It wasn't a set of verses, but rather it was a form of meditation. It's called visualization. And what I visualized, for example, in Northern Telecom, was I knew the guy who stole my idea. And I had him firmly implanted in my brain. I got a picture of him, and then I concentrated on the building itself, got it firmly implanted in my brain. And I thought, gone, gone, gone. I didn't think of any particular method of destruction. I just wanted them gone. The same thing applies with the Bingo Paper Company. I just wanted him gone and the company gone because I had no further use for them after what they did to me. But it was just a state of mind. It was a state of mind. I didn't chant anything. I didn't recite anything. I didn't sing anything. It was like a form of meditation. My mind was focused on what I wanted to happen. And just like those clowns that stole my brother's car. Because when you think about it, when your vehicle gets stolen, first of all, there's an 80% chance that you're never going to see it again. Then if you do get it back, there's a 75% chance that it's going to be damaged. Like the guy might have wrapped it around a telephone pole or, nose dived into a ditch, something like that. So with that to consider, he got off lucky because instead of having to buy a new car, yeah, he had to spend $1,000 to get it out of the impound lot, but he got his car back and he was able to drive it home. Which is a lot luckier than most people would be.
So that meditation, that willing something, did somebody teach you to do that? Or was that just something that just came naturally? Like, you know what, this person did me wrong. I'm going to think about it and hit them. Well, you probably didn't think anything would happen to them when you were thinking about it. Or did you feel like by meditating, by thinking about it, by thinking about retribution that it would be? Or was that something you were taught to do?
Um, Essentially, that was probably a byproduct of all the books that I'd read. I was a big science fiction reader. Like about 10 years ago, in fact, I gave the local library 300 paperbacks, and most of them were science fiction, and it really opens your mind up to a lot of different things. And it gives you a whole new perspective on a lot of different things. And this is where I kind of got the idea at first about how to do this, because these books, um, the science fiction doesn't really delve into any religious aspect of anything. But what it does is it says, okay, these forces, this thing is all around, and it can be used, it can be tapped into, and it doesn't care about you. But if you tap into it, you better care about how you use it, because there is a price to be paid. And then there were stories which delved into how people used this force. And some did not end up well, and some did. And it all came down to what the person wanted and how they wanted to get it. See, like for me, um, basically, what I wished for was exactly what I got. I did not want that man to have his job anymore. I did not want that plant to exist anymore, and I got both. And the same thing with Bingo Paper Company. This man lost his job, and the plant went out of business. These guys with the car, I meditated, I thought about it, and what I wanted was A, for my brother to get his car back and to be able to at least drive it, and B, for these guys to get on. And I got both. And it's just like you have to be focused, because if you stray, if you wander, if you can't think straight, you're not going to get it, and it's never going to happen, and you'll get completely frustrated. But if you stay focused, laser beam onto what you want, you will eventually get it. It may take some time. Like that one took 4 years, the other one took 2 years.
Oh.
This one only took 2 days. But it will happen. It will happen. But you just have to stay focused. And the way I look at it is, the bigger the job, the longer and harder you have to work. It's like anything. And so, I mean, I was working against Northern Telecom. That's why it took, I think it was 4 years. I was working against the Bingo Paper Company. That's why it took 2 years. It was a smaller company. And I was only working against 3 or 4 people. And that's why it only took 2 days. But it's, again, see, and this is where people can get extremely corrupted. Because if you use this, if you focus and use it to hurt people, then what you have just done is made yourself into a demon. You have, first of all, followed your own advice, which was no good. And this is what demons specialize in: bad advice. They will tell you or convince you to do things that are not in your best interests and sometimes will end up in your debt. Then you go out and do these things, hurt people, cause bad things to happen. But what was the reason? Malice? That's going to cost you, and that's going to cost you big time. But if your cause was just, if you were honestly wronged, then what will happen is good things will happen. Now, for example, with the Northern Telecom situation, what happened there, oddly enough, was that not long after that company folded up, that's when I got the job with Bingo Paper Company. Well, actually, it's a longer story than that, but worked for a paper company for 24 years. When they basically diddled me, it was only about a month and a half later that I got a job locally here, which I worked at until I retired. So you can't, you see, and I didn't get any of that through skullduggery, cheating, hurting, or anything. And this is why I was able to remain employed, get my own house, get my own land. I don't owe anybody anything. I am completely and absolutely debt free. Those are, to me, not things that would be gained through being malicious. So I don't consider myself as having tapped into demonic powers, but there are people who will and do, and those are people who make themselves into what we call demons. And I've known one or two. They are not nice people. They are scary.
So, would you say the books that you were reading, okay, you said you learned how to essentially curse people, but righteously curse people from books, like you learn how to get retaliation when you've been wrong, and you've learned to do that from some books you've read. Were the books under the guise of evil, or was it just, oh no, this is just righting wrongs, a book about righting wrongs?
Um, Basically, they were simply stories. They were stories about people just like me who got into situations where they had no control over what was being done to them, and they had to find a way out.
Mhm.
And this is where tapping into these forces came in. And of course, having read as many books as I have on the subject, in science fiction storytelling, that is, um, I began to realize that there was some substance to what was being said. And it wasn't being pushed on me like, the Bible. It says, do this, do that, and be a good boy or you're going to hell. These were simply stories which were being told. And the best way I can liken it is, for example, um, the indigenous populations, the Indians, the Iroquois, the Micmac, coastal Indians. They all have their stories about these and their forces. That's what they call them, the forces. And they have their own versions of good and evil. For example, one notable one is the Wendigo, or what they call the Skinwalker. This thing, you don't want to mess with it. You don't want to get near it. You will die. But it's the Wendigo.
Think I
They
heard.
also have. Hmm?
I said, I think I heard something about that, but go on, please. I think I've heard of that.
Yeah. It's actually, I think they made a TV series about it. But yeah, these all of these Indian tribes also had their own way of tapping into these forces. For example, some of the coastal Indian tribes in BC, they would use psilocybin, magic mushrooms. That's what they call them, magic mushrooms. Their shamans would take these mushrooms. It would be a nearly fatal dose. They would take these mushrooms and they would have these visions of things to come or things that could be done or maybe changes to their society. But that was their way of tapping into this force that surrounds us. In other words, there were other Indian tribes which used, shall we say, meditation by ordeal. It was, like some of the prophets in the Bible. It was, a combination of fasting and, just basically drinking a little bit of water here and there to prevent yourself from dying. But it was a near enough death experience that they were able to get a glimpse of the other side and to make use of that energy for the good of their people. But these shamans, they never did become evil. They never got possessed. But yet, that on all of these societies, they had their good and their bad. They always had the good and the bad. These are beliefs that go back thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years. It predates Christianity by literally tens of centuries. And these ancient civilizations still had their ideas of good and bad. They had their gods. They had their demons. They had it all. And when you look at, and this is why I'm going against the church, because now we're getting into evolution, the growth of man from the apes on up. Even as early as, I forget how many thousand years, 12, 15, maybe even 20,000 years ago, people were burying their dead. Why? What significance did they have attached to it if they didn't know something special had happened or maybe was going to happen? So burying the dead is nothing new. And again, they knew that there was something beyond life. They suspected it. The primitive men couldn't know what it was, but they suspected it. They knew that it was there. But that's all. They only knew that it was there. And this is why even back then, they treated their dead with such respect. So that force is there. It's almost always been there. Right. And it has been tapped into on many occasions. And like I say, this is what makes demons, in my opinion. This is what makes demons. Because people will corrupt things, they will twist things, they will make it fit their own malicious desires. And that is not right. And they will pay a price, but they will get away with it for a while. And this is why right now we are approaching a critical juncture in our future. Because what is happening is, and this is going to be a stupid term for it, but it's the only thing I can give to it. It's a contagious insanity that grows. And it will continue to grow. Because what is happening is now more and more people, they don't know what the truth is. They don't know what reality is. Look at CGI. Can you honestly watch anything and know for sure that that's a real person? Reality is starting to disappear. And it's becoming harder and harder to distinguish reality from fantasy because of the way we are using our technology. The truth, and it makes the truth harder to understand. It makes it a harder judgment to make, because which is easier, to believe something that just spewed out of somebody's mouth like Donald Trump? Or do you want to take the time and actually research it, find out from other sources whether it's true or not? It takes too much effort. So they create more demons because now these people believe in the wrong things and they do the wrong things. It is a horrific state of affairs. And if what the Bible says about the end times is true, we're in them.
Well, all I can say is, of course, people have been. I would disagree with this. I would say we aren't just starting to be corrupt. I feel like we were corrupt since the beginning of time, like way before this. Sodom and Gomorrah, like everybody was losing it. Like I don't think anything that's happening today is really new. And I mean, I guess besides the whole like AI thing and everything, but I'm saying, remember earlier when we were talking about when you were asking me like, do I think that God wanted us to be like animals? Maybe he wanted to take care of us and let us live, like just let us live, take care of us without our minds being corrupted into creating all this AI and this. I don't want to go too deep because some people, but like I mean, people humans can do a lot right now. Like that you never would have imagined, like, oh, now I can, like, if I want to be a boy today, I can be a boy today. You know what I'm saying? I can be a boy right now. Like, so humans can do a lot. Like the knowledge is just through the roof. So do you think that maybe that's why God was trying to like not let us get a hold of all that knowledge because of what we're doing with it now? Maybe, I don't know. That's what my thoughts are. Like maybe he just wanted us to live in the garden. Like we didn't even have rain in the garden. Like he was like watering the earth. We didn't have rain. He was just watering it through the earth and we had everything we needed. We had uh endless supply of everything and all we had to do was sit there and like live and we wouldn't have known any better. We would have just been happily living. But as soon as we broke that rule, well, I shouldn't say we, but as soon as they broke that rule, like like he said, from now on you're going to have to get everything from the sweat of your brow. Women, you're going to be bearing those children. Good thing you got, medication now, but then you're going to be burying these children with all that pain and you're going to do whatever your husband says. And like, you broke the rules. So now everything is going downhill from now on and you have to get it how you live it. So maybe do you think he didn't want us to get all that knowledge to prevent all that?
Well, if that were the case, then why didn't he prevent Adam and Eve from curiosity? See, because curiosity is what has driven man to where we are now. Um, and even animals have curiosity. I mean, look at cats; they'll stick their noses into everything. Um, the crows and all the more intelligent animals, they have curiosity, and sometimes it's just for the sake of finding out what it is. In a lot of cases, it's simply foraging for food and sticking your nose where something smells good. But that would have implied that God did not want us to be curious. And that is a completely separate thing than good and evil, because good and evil doesn't apply curiosity. Those are emotions that directly affect, adversely or otherwise, people around you. Whereas curiosity is simply a desire to know. And this is unfortunately one of the things that's driven us to where we are. We want to know how to do a thing, or how to do a thing better, or how to do it faster. And as a result, we've gone from burning ourselves on a burning ember and discovering fire. I mean, I bet the man's first word was ouch because he found fire. But it's gone. It's been a progression since then. And what's happened is now you get into the aspect of good and evil, because now you have to consider, okay, this is what we're making, this is what we're distributing. What are people going to do with it? Well, think of the internet. The internet was only up and running for what, a couple of 3 years, and it was already being corrupted by people who would use it for their own nefarious ends. And this is basically what has been applied to every single technology known to man. For one person who does a good thing with it, there is another person who wants to do something bad with it. And this is an unfortunate aspect of the balance of things, the yin yang. Because, in certain philosophies, there cannot be a universe without these two basic elements. Otherwise, it would render everything meaningless. But there's nothing wrong with having more good than bad. You still have both, you just got more of one than the other. But it's so much easier to take the easy way, the downhill slide, the slippery slope, whatever you want to call it. It's a lot easier to do the wrong thing. And this is where we make ourselves into demons.
So I reference the Bible a lot because that's where I get all of the information about demons, right? Like the Bible has a lot of information about demons. Now I haven't read like the satanic book or the mage, what was it called? The mage. I haven't read those, and maybe I should like at least take a look at it to know what's in there. But I would assume that in there the satanic beings or the demons would be considered to be the good people or the good entities or whatever. But I get all my references about demons from the Bible. And basically, it says the original demon, Satan, was once an angel named Lucifer who betrayed God, waging a war with a group of fellow traitors, which he subsequently lost, and that led to their expulsion from heaven. And that was the first fall in the Bible, the first sin, the first evil that was introduced to the universe, to all of us today. Now, someone who doesn't believe in that stuff and who says, well, that's just a fairy tale, I'm wondering where they get their references from. Like, well, how tell us, the people who, for the Bible readers, tell us like where you guys get your references from. Like, what do you read? What are your manuals to tell like what's good and bad? Like, is it all bad in your book or is it all good in your book? Because we say like the Bible is just a bunch of evil people doing evil stuff, which it is. Like, and God says, I'm going to use the bad people just like you to show that you can be good. But what's in the other books? Like, maybe I should read it. I shouldn't like ask you, but I'm not asking you, but I'm just wondering like what I'm wondering what the other books are teaching. Like what, like we say that, okay, God, well, I think God created us and everything's just out of control. Well, what are all these other books saying to do that we should do? Are these books contributing to our destruction too? Or is it just like, oh, well, the Bible, like because of that, everything's all jacked up. But are there other books helping? Like, are their instructions better? Is what I'm wondering. Like, are the instructions in their books or their manuals better and something we should go by? But I mean, of course, you can't answer that. And it says demons in the Bible can refer to forces of evil in the world as well as the devil himself. And we are continually warned throughout scripture to be wary of demonic forces attempting to corrupt and influence. And while many of the demons we must look out for are external, the Bible also reminds us we may have demons living within our own psyche. Like you said, like
Mhm.
sometimes we go a little loopy that need to be recognized and expelled. The exorcisms, according to the Bible, demons are involved in multiple activities. They are organized under Satan, the dark angel, the light bearer. They are organized under Satan in how do you say it? Hierarchy, hierarchy.
Oh, oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Levels known as rulers, authorities, powers, and spiritual forces. Like, and they just go on to say, like, a zillion times where the demons are running amok. So I'm wondering, like, if the Bible and God and like everything that God, because we don't even know who created us, right? If we don't believe in God, right? If we don't believe in God, how did we get here? Like, we don't even know any of that. Are the other books like telling us how we got here? Or like, is there like an origin story in the other books? Like, I'm trying to understand. And I'm not saying you have the answers to that. Of course, I don't have the answers. You probably don't have the answers. But I'm just wondering, like, like I just think the Bible gets a lot of flack sometimes because it's like, okay, well, that's a fairy tale, or why does it say that, or that doesn't make sense. But what are the other books saying so we can say, oh, yeah, that doesn't make sense. In this book over here, like, yeah, this book makes sense. Like, that's why I did that poll. Like, how many people read those books, those other books? And not a lot of people read those other books. So it's like, I don't understand, like, how can we like get like weigh our options per se? Like, how can we say, all right, well, you know what? Let's screw that Bible, like for real. That's garbage for real. Because we are actually referencing it all the time, like even when we don't know we are referencing it, we are referencing that book. But I never hear a lot of people say, well, in that Maj, the satanic book said, I don't, are they trying to keep it a secret from the rest of us and like be the enlightened ones while we are like, like, oh well, we're following this, we don't know what's going on. But they're over there with the satanic book. Well, I guess we could go get one, but you get what I'm saying? Like, is it like a secret? Like, why isn't there like, okay, well, there's a satanic church down the road by the Walmart. Like, why is it such a big like secret? Or like the Scientology churches or whatever. Like, why is everything so like secretive for them? Like if they want their beliefs to be respected and to stand out, like why is it such a secret? Like, like everybody knows the Bible is not a secret. Like, oh, like everybody knows it's not a secret. But like I feel like these other things are just so like hush hush. And I mean, I don't know what y'all do, but if y'all do it, be proud about doing it. Like if y'all, I don't know, cut chickens' heads off, hey, that's what y'all do to make stuff right. Teach us that. Like I cut these chickens' heads off for this, or I do this for that. Like, but I just feel like for the Bible, it's like, oh, that's hogwash, or and that's okay to believe that. I'm not telling nobody to believe anything. I'm just saying tell us about your book or tell us about your teachings or, maybe invite people. Well, they probably do invite people. But I just feel like it's just so secretive. Like, why? Like, are they keeping it a secret for a reason? Because they say, like, oh, you guys are not worthy to learn about this stuff. You know? You get what I'm saying? I know that was a lot.
Yeah, that's yeah. It's what I find paradoxical is that you have one book, the Bible, but look at how many different Christian churches use it.
Right.
So, if these Bibles all contain the same information, why do you have so many different churches?
Right.
Now, the one thing that I find strange about the Christian religion is that it shares an awful lot of similarities with other more ancient religions. For example, there, excuse me, like the Mesoamerican religions, the Indian religions, like I'm talking North American Indians, um, the continental Indians, Sanskrit, Hindu, they all have, for example, a creation story. It may take a different shape and form, but they all have a creation story. In the beginning, there was nothing. They all have stories of a great flood, like Noah. In one example, I think it's Gilgamesh. But they share an awful lot of similarities. Now, I have heard it said, and to me, it is logical that the Bible, Christianity, is little more than a mismatch, a bringing together of fragments and bits and pieces and commonalities of all these more ancient religions. Because if you take the time there, you'd be surprised. You really would be surprised. All of these different books also have a war between two factions, which resulted in the underworld and the upper world. They all describe the end times. And I can't remember all of the different similarities. And all of these religions predated Christianity. So what you see in the Bible really is nothing new. It has been, and this is why, again, I do not necessarily subscribe to Christianity per se, is because the Christian religion is basically a collection and a mismatch, a mixing together of what they read and what they found in other religious texts. And really, like I say, you can research it and you'll see exactly what I mean. And they also contain, all of them, one central figure, which it's, be it Viracocha or Rama, and they'll come back in a couple of thousand years. They all share that same thing.
So would you think that that makes it more valid then? I would think like, you know, it's more valid that these events actually took place if they are in other books, you know?
Well, it is possible that some of these events had their basis in fact. Like I said, the various accounts of the Great Flood, which reportedly covered the entire planet. I don't believe that, but what I do believe is that it may have been a catastrophic geographical event or geophysical event that covered that part of the earth. For example, the Euphrates Valley could easily have been inundated and covered, and that would give rise to the Great Flood story. So in that respect, it could be based in fact. Something else I dispute about the Bible And I know I'll probably be proclaimed a heretic for saying this, but as regards um, the enslavement of the Hebrews in Egypt, well, I have seen and had translated by people hieroglyphs from that very period, showing that they were well fed, well housed, and well treated. So where did they get the story from? And
You're
they're
talking
also
about like the slaves
the
who
the
in
Exodus
Exodus.
and the subsequent plagues that Moses supposedly visited upon the Pharaoh
Mhm.
to get him to let the Hebrews go. That part of it, I don't believe the Jews were enslaved. I really don't.
Now I say let's not talk about the Jews because they for real with it and they they will
I know
cancel. They
I get in
gon'
big trouble.
yeah, they gonna cancel everybody. They don't play. Like we love all of the Jewish people of Jewish descent. Like we don't want no problems, no beef. We just talking about things in history in books that we are aware of. So not trying to you know
That was
how
just
it is.
information. That was simply information that I came across, which I found rather interesting. Um, because see, I don't own a time machine, so I have no idea
Mhm.
what actually happened. So I can only
Yeah.
base what my opinions on. Well, they're only basically about two sources: the Bible and um, basically the archaeological research that's been done in Egypt in excavating these old sites. Excuse me, and bringing the hieroglyphs to light. Those are the only two sources of information I know of.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel like there is so much information out there and even as much as you dig for it to find the information, like it's really no way to say that the information that you researched and you got a hold of is even the right information and it's all these like conspiracies and like I mean like the Nephilims. You ever heard about the Nephilims?
Mm-hmm.
Like the angels who like came down from heaven and slept with the women and made giant beings and like I mean now, I'm not saying it didn't happen, but it's like, and they said they found bones and everything and like it's like we just have no way to like deny or confirm anything for real. Like all we can go by is like researchers and books and like I want to like believe everything, but you can't believe everything because like sometimes people try to like um give us a false story about something that actually happened and twist it around and like put their own spin and put their own narrative on it. And it's like we are here having to sift through the data and gather the correct information. So that's why to me, that's why I guess I say, like for the other people with the different books or whatever, like, and I guess it's up to me to go like search for the books. And I like from everything I read from the Bible, it tells me like, no, don't be messing with those books, you know what I'm saying? Because but
Mm-hmm.
I guess you should like at least see what's in there. But then what if you do go and see what's in there and then you open up something that you weren't supposed to open up? Like I remember like my friend Christy told me that one day they were playing with one of those Ouija board things and knives were flying across the room. And I'm like, okay, I want to do my fair share of investigating, but I don't want to, open up the wrong thing while I'm investigating. So if it's all laid out here, like, no, don't touch that, don't mess with that, nope, don't do that. Nah, you don't need to know your horoscope and all that. Like, if it's all laid out, Like I wonder why. I don't know. I just don't know how to put it into words to say it's all laid out, the things in a nice bowl of things that you don't need to mess with, you know, and like just leave those things alone. And for the people who do decide, like, I'm gonna investigate, I'm gonna see, like, why can't they just tell us, like, is it really working out for you, or are you over there suffering, like, after you opened up something that you weren't supposed to open up, are you like hiding it from us? You don't want to tell us, like the Scientologists who sign these billion-year contracts and stuff. Hey, what's going on over there, guys? Like, do they tell y'all can't talk about it? Because a lot of people are doing it. Tom Cruise, he's
Mm.
doing it, like, so, like, what's like, what are they doing? Like, and it's like, okay, well, this, like, and I'm not saying like people escape from those, I don't know, do you call them religions? But I don't want to say people escape from those religions because people leave Christianity every day too. They say, you know what, this is not where it's at. I'm not really trying to do this. I'm not really trying to do anything. I'm just trying to live my life and be a good person and call it a day. I'm not really trying to be listening to no Bible. I'm not trying to go to church with that pastor who done slept with everybody in there, not not giving the right life lessons, not even living right. And I'm in here giving him my money every week. Like, I don't want to do this. I'm not getting better in church. I'm not getting happier. I'm not finding peace. Like I said earlier, I'm not learning anything. I'm down and out. I'm already broke, and you want my rent money. You want my rent money. I'm already broke. I'm giving you more money that I don't have. So people are getting tired of church. I think during the C word epidemic that we had, people realized, like, you know what? I really don't need church. I really don't need church. Church is not helping me. Like, and I'm not saying like you're just going to a church to get help, but a lot of people look to church and religion for hope. Like, they're trying to get hope, they're trying to overcome something. Like, some people have been dealing with some things for years, like longer than we can imagine, like dealing with something. And they feel like, I'm not really getting answers here. So why do I continue to come to a place that's not helping me when I can go down there to that card reader lady and she gonna give me these trinkets or whatever, and I'm gonna be okay in a week. Like, and I think people, and that's what's like, I think that's what's keeping people away from the church and stuff, because God can't help people in a place that he's not in. Like, you can go to that church every day, and if he's not there, like his spirit not in that church, you wasting your time. And a lot of these churches is, well, I believe in God. And I believe his spirit is not in that church. Like, that church is void of God, Like, y'all basically, and I don't know if it's me because I'm corrupted. Maybe I'm very corrupted. But I've walked into churches and I said, you know what, God, I'm gonna go back to church. I'm gonna go back to church. And I've walked into churches and immediately said, nah, I can't do that. Now I don't know if it's the evil in me that's like, oh, I don't like it here, like I'm not comfortable here, because that could be very well it. Or if it's just like I'm in a place now where I know, like, I'm not getting better here, like I might as well stay home because I'm not changing. I'm not gonna do the right thing. And maybe it is me. Maybe it's just me, that's not doing the right thing. Maybe it's me. It has nothing to do with Satan or God. Maybe it's just me and I'm just not built for being a good person. Maybe I'm just not, something is going on with me that I can't get it right, because it's very difficult. Like, we can say we are a good person all day, but we know how we uh treated someone at the grocery store, or how we gave someone a dirty look, or like, we know ourselves, and we know, like, we can present to the world like, oh, I'm just this great person, I'm an angel, look at me, I'm so nice. But we know who we are at our cores, we know ourselves, and I just think that church is so corrupt. Not all churches, but some churches are so corrupt in themselves that you can't even get your help there and figure out where you need to be, because it's all evil in there. You get what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
Hmm. Or, or simply an echo chamber devoid of God.
Right. Like,
But in any event, basically, and it takes no effort to try it, and you might even, gain some peace from it. But basically, I think you could probably find this peace within yourself. I really do. Because, you know, you don't have to be a nice person 24/7, 60 minutes out of every hour. Nobody can do that. I can't. I can be 10 minutes down the road and curse somebody for cutting me off.
on gang.
And I mean, that to
On
me, that is
gang.
just being a normal human being. But when I go to a grocery store, if I see somebody having a problem, I will try to help. When I'm in the checkout line, I will always crack a joke or two with the cashier. Because, I mean, look at the people they have to deal with. You get cranked. You get people who don't give a damn. They see these kinds of people all day. So why not have one person, me, crack a joke, get a smile, give them a laugh? That is a random act of kindness that is priceless. And I love doing stuff like that. And I get remembered. It makes people remember you because of all the clowns, goofs, and grumps that they saw in the day. I was the only one that brightened it up. So you might try that because I know you've got a good sense of humor.
Well, I
So
do, like, I'm not saying that I don't do acts of kindness and stuff, because I think today, like, whenever they do some kind of act of kindness, it's like, oh, I'm recording, like, look at me giving away this $10, or look at me giving away my clothes, or like, everything is like for a show. So yeah, I do believe that if you do acts of kindness, and I don't know, maybe that's the wrong way to think about it. Like, if you do acts of kindness, it will come back to you. Like, maybe it's the wrong way to think of it, but I do think of it like that. I do think that, like, because, like, throughout my life, I've tried to help others in any kind of way I could. I do feel like, if you believe in God or not, something is like, you know what? I'm gonna look out for you because you looked out for others. You continue to look out for others. And maybe it's not, maybe you're not supposed to, like, view it like that and just look out for others, but I do believe that when you put out good, like, it does come back to you, but in some situations it doesn't. Like, I've seen situations where, man, a man or a woman could have been like this golden man, the best person, and just losing it all. Like, I mean, just everything taken away from them. And and I guess you can't look at it like that either, because we don't know what's going on in a person's life to their core. So, and from my understanding, because like I said, like I get all of my references from the Bible because I don't know what the other like the satanic Bible and stuff says. And maybe I should like check it out just to see well how they look at things. But from the Bible, from like what I read, like God already told us, like I already put a curse on you for what your great 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 grandfather did anyways. You know, like he told us, like, hey, I already cursed your whole bloodline. So, and I'm like, how how is one to feel when you know your bloodline is cursed already? You know, and I know I shouldn't look at it like that, but I look at it like that. I'm like, dang, like, he did say, he was already cursing my generation, like he told us, he made it clear, like, your bloodline is cursed. Your bloodline is cursed. And he doesn't break his covenants. He is a covenant person, a rule person. If I said I was cursing your bloodline, that's I'll try to make your life okay, but that curse is still there. Like, and that's why I'm like, I don't know. It's very confusing for me because you want to live a good life, you want to do the right thing, but then like when you think about it, like, do I have a curse on me? Because like, and I shouldn't say it, but many times I've felt like maybe there might be a little something going on, a little curse. I don't want to say curse, but like something, because you could have a curse on yourself and not even know it from your family, your bloodline might have a little curse. Like if you ever had a dream that you were flying, you ever had a dream that you were flying? Well, they
Yeah.
say, and like and I'm not talking about in an airplane. I'm talking about you are flying. And then you think like, okay, I'm flying. This is so great. Well, I've been told that no, that's forces controlling you because humans are not meant to fly. Birds are meant to fly, and something is manipulating your life, controlling you, causing you to fly in your dream and astral project and all that stuff. And all that stuff is real. Like people astral project, uh, I don't know, get spells cast on them. And it sounds crazy, but I feel like that stuff really does happen. Like people wake up and they say, I was flying over someone's house the other day. Like I believe that that stuff really does happen, and you can't fight evil with evil, can you? Like you have to fight good with evil. And because I mean, from the rules I know, a house divided cannot stand, or you cannot serve two masters because you hate one. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know, like it's just the way that I learned. And I didn't even know a lot of that stuff before I got away from churches that were not actually teaching that stuff. Like they don't teach that stuff. It's like, oh, well, if be a kind person and everything will work out. Like they don't teach you the nitty gritty, the I was possessed last week. They don't teach you that stuff. They don't teach you like, oh, that painting you got in your house. Sorry, I'm getting a little ghetto. Sorry. But they don't teach you like that painting you got hanging on your wall got something on it that you got from that yard sale last week. They don't teach you that stuff. They don't teach you stuff like that. And that's the problem in church, I think. The problem in church is they not getting down to the nitty-gritty and the evil of it all. Like I was watching this priest the other day, and he was talking about how prevalent possessions really are, like how prevalent it really is. And if you are like that, He said, like, you can't fight those things not in the right head space and heart space. He said those things will rip you to shreds if you are trying to deal with demonic forces. And like, if you not right, like if you try, those demons will laugh at you, you know? And I don't think that churches are actually equipped for all that. I don't think like all churches are really built for that. And they like, I guess they wanted to be a place to feel good that you came on Sunday and then go home and call it a day. But like those real demons are out there every day. They come through our music, and I know I sound crazy, but those demons come through our music, like our songs and stuff, and our like whatever we listen to is demons in some of those. We don't know. Like I forgot that musician that he said, was it Dylan or one of them? Anyways, he said that, you know what? Like he's still paying his price for making those hits. Like he still gotta pay back to the god of music, the light bearer, Satan. Like he still gotta pay back for that. And I even read, and I know I sound like a lunatic right now, and like I know I do. But I even read that Michael Jackson in Hell and Whitney Houston. I don't know. I know it sounds ridiculous, but essentially, um, Michael was trying to get out of his satanic contract. He was trying to get out of his, he tried to get out, but I don't think he made it out. And people had dreams that they saw them there. And they say, like, hell is a place of torture where you basically, you like repeat, you continue to like repeat things you did on earth over and over and over again. Like, and I don't know, but there have people who said they died, like they lost consciousness, they died, and they had to be revived, and they remembered, just like people remembered heaven, it's people who remembered hell. And they say it's a place that you or I or anyone wants to go. Like they died, they were there, and I don't know whoever y'all believe in, but something pulled them out and was like, okay, you saw what was there. Now, maybe you might want to straighten up. And even knowing that, I'm sure it's still difficult for them to like live like a straight and narrow life. It's so difficult to just be straight and narrow. That's very, for me it is. I can't speak for everyone, but for me I feel like that's just very difficult to just be like, okay, I'm never going to do anything wrong. I'm going to always be the best person. I'm going to be nice. I'm going to, what do you think about that? I'm sorry. I know that was a ramble. That was a lot. But what do you think about that?
Okay, first of all, as far as being a good person goes, you do that when you have the opportunity, not as a mandatory activity. You don't, and I don't go out and look for things where I can do good. I don't bother with that. I got other things. I got to take care of my own life. But for example, occasionally when I walk into Walmart to do some shopping, there'll be somebody sitting there with a table, and they'll be asking for money for a good cause, like for the kids or, the Animal Society or that. And I'll slip them $10. Maybe I can't afford it, but I'll slip them $10 anyway. because it's all going for a good cause. And it's not that I consciously went out of my way to do that. It just happened to be there and the opportunity presented itself. There have been other times when I've been driving out of a parking lot, excuse me, and a couple of times I saw this woman standing there holding a sign saying, I've got 3 kids, I got, no money and like that, so I give her $20. I mean, why else would you be standing out in the street if you got no money? It's an opportunity that presents itself. I don't consciously go out and look for it. You don't have to. That's not the idea. And I know that some people think you got to be good 24/7, and that's impossible. I don't know anybody who can do that. I can't. My father, God bless his, oh, what a man. He couldn't do it either. Nobody can. You're not, if you are perfect all the time, you're not human. That's the way I look at it. You're going to get angry. Occasionally, maybe you want to slug somebody in the jaw, but basically, you're human. So the idea is, if the opportunity presents itself and you're there, do it. That is the best possible way. It's spontaneous. It's not thought out. It just is there and it happens. And the best kind of charity, so I've heard, is anonymous. So if the opportunity presents itself, do that too. But it takes all kinds of forms. You see somebody drop something, pick it up for them. You see it, do it. Or there was, and I've had that thing where I've had it returned to me too. People, oh, here your wallet. Don't forget the wallet, or oh, you gave me $5 too much, something like that. It's always going to come back to you in one form or another. Maybe not just then, but it will come back to you. And this is, to me, it's inevitable. Just the way the universe works. What you do comes back to you. It's, well, better for lack of any better term, it's karma. What goes around comes around. So if you want to act like an asshole, do various things to piss other people off, steal stuff, hurt people, well, that goes around. But what comes around may not be so pleasant because it's going to be about the same stuff, only it's going to be coming back to you. So this is why, like I say, I occasionally will curse people for doing stupid stuff. But generally, I will try to be helpful, be nice. What's the matter with being nice? I can't tell you how many times it really irks me to see people where they don't exhibit good manners. Just plain good manners. Hold the door open for somebody. I do that whenever I can. There's somebody right behind me. Oh, it's here. Oh, thanks, man. It's just these small little things. They are good things. And I don't keep score. What's the point? What the point is that I have made somebody feel good. I've helped somebody do something. I've made their day a little better. That is what counts. That's all that counts. So, I don't have a scorecard. There's no point. And this is, again, and this is where we come back to the pervading force. Because what you're doing, basically, by doing good things for good people, for no reason other than to do good, is you are channeling the good side of this force to do good, and it will come back. Because for every action, there is a reaction. And it will take the form of whatever you do. So, if you do something stupid, you're going to get stupid. If you do something intelligent, you're going to get intelligent. If you do something nice, you're going to get nice. This is the way it works. and I found that it worked wonderfully. Um, Ever since I adopted this principle, um, and I think basically the first time I ever adopted it was back in 1983. I was unemployed. I was on unemployment insurance. It was a cold, rotten, windy day in October. I was walking down the street to go to the store to get a little bit of food, and I heard one meow, just one. And what it turned out to be was a little black kitten sitting all hunched up beside this car wheel, trying to stay warm in this weather. And without even thinking, I didn't even give it a second thought. I scooped up this little kitten and I claimed him for my own. Since that time, good things have happened to me because I rescued an innocent from certain death. Later on, the same thing happened. I rescued another black cat from my neighbor. He was not happy about a litter of kittens and what they'd done to his mattress, but that's his problem because he was, well, he did stupid and he got stupid. So karma wheel turned. Anyway, I rescued another black cat from a neighbor downstairs. And again, I was never a cat person up to then. Since then, I have, from basically cradle to grave, except for one cat, I've had Viren, Spanky, Buddy, Max, Tommy, and the last one in the line is Dusty. They are all rescue cats. I took them in without even a second thought. Those are all good things, but you do them without thinking. Why? Because it's just the right thing to do. It should come as an instinct, and most people don't develop that instinct. And it's and this is what makes living in the world difficult, and it's what you would say provides portal for demons, because it is so easy either not to do anything or to do something mean. It's it's easier to hate and destroy than it is to love and build. That's why most people choose the former and not the latter. You have,
Well, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you have to make the right choice. Otherwise, you're going to pay for it either in this life or when you leave it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I think that maybe all of the all of the wrong things I did in my life, because I have done a lot of wrong things in my life. Like I feel like maybe that's maybe I may be paying back for those things. Now, don't get me wrong. I am blessed beyond measures. Okay. Like I have everything I need to survive, like thank you, God, or whoever you guys believe in. But for me, God, Jesus. But I have everything I need, like everything I need. But sometimes I feel like something is missing. And is it because in my past I wasn't so good to people. Like I wasn't so very good. I didn't treat them good. I was mean, maybe still mean, could be still mean, maybe too mean, maybe vicious, probably a little vicious, and I feel like okay, maybe things aren't like you have everything, but you are missing things because of how you have acted in the past, or maybe a little bit even of how you act now. And like, is there a way to not even from a biblical perspective, but is there a way to reverse? Because you said you said you had to curse some people. is there a way for those people that you had to curse to like, okay, you know what? I've learned my lesson from Ken's curse. What can I do now in order to like be redeemed for a lack of a better term?
Mm, I think it depends on the recipient. Um, the people whom I cursed will likely learn nothing from their experience. But you, on the other hand, um, you recognize that you've done wrong. I mean, I've done wrong too in my life. I mean, I've done some pretty crummy things.
I'm a
I'll
monster.
admit it.
Yeah, I'm a monster.
Um, mm, no, you're not. But I guess what I'm trying to get to is that the best cure for any of those, see, what's probably happening is you're being tortured by your own mind, and what you carry around with you affects the way, um, for lack of any better term, it affects the way you live. So basically, if you carry around these memories, these things, um, they're useless to you. You have to get rid of them. Not I'm not saying forget them, but simply don't let them consume you. See, this is the kind of thing that hell is made of. It is made out of regret, remorse, hopeless hope. This is the kind of thing that you're going to find in hell. And some people can make their own hell on earth. They don't have to die to do it. They're already doing it. So the best cure for that, and this is what really is, it's like taking medicine. You may not feel cured or good right away, but given enough time, it will get better. And this is what I found. Um, from the age of about 12, I'd say probably until I was nearly 30, 18 years, I was an asshole. That's the only way I can put it. And somewhere along the way, it dawned on me, you're an asshole. So then I set about to do something about it. And that's when I changed my entire life philosophy. That's when I found that I could actually be a decent person. And it took the desire to do it. I said, like you don't even ask yourself why you're doing it, you just do it. And once it becomes that way, you'll find that things get an awful lot better. Maybe not right away, but they get an awful lot better. And after I went through, after I finally passed through that period of whatever the hell it was, um, I was able to make peace with my father. Um, I was able to reestablish communications with my mother. I was able to at least start to hold down a steady job and make some money. Um, things just kind of fell into place. And that is not maybe what you can expect, but those were all good things. And they were all good things because I wanted to do good things, because I harbored good thoughts. I mean, granted, there was one bad thing, and that was, you might even remember this, when I and my brother and a buddy of ours got held up at gunpoint in a rental house.
Mm.
We almost blown away, but thankfully we didn't. It could have ended up very differently. I mean, we could have ended up with bloodstains on the floor, but luckily that didn't happen. But again, things will start to come to you, but you, first of all, have to change this. as long as you harbor all of these burdens, as you have to, and this is the way I did it. You have to remember, first of all, and don't ever forget the things that you did, but know why you did them, and then don't do them anymore. Use it as a lesson, not as a torture. Because, I mean, the only monsters I know of are Adolf Hitler, Mussolini, Hirohito, up until the point they lost the war, um, Hannibal Lecter, Pol Pot. Those are monsters. You're not. So it's not going to be that hard for you to, you'll get over this. I know you will.
Yeah, I think for me, I did go through a period of time where I was so I don't know what kind of headspace I was in, but whatever headspace I was in at the time, even though cuz you like people think like, dang, like you have it. Like, Jen, you like what's wrong? Like you got like what's the problem? You have it all. Like, like what's going on? Like I'm not rich, but I'm not poor kind of thing, right? And like I was in one of those headspaces where it's like I I don't know if it was like a breakdown. I don't know if I was going through I hate to say mental breakdown because I don't think it's mental. I sometimes I think it's forces, but it could have been a little of both. And like I had done something I didn't have no business doing, right? And I went to sleep and it was like something was like dragging me down, like to, down there. And I told you this, and I woke up and I was clearly awake and like something was like typing across my wall like a typewriter and all kinds of colors and letters and symbols that I couldn't make out. And I was like, oh, you done opened it up now. Like you had so many warnings to chill out and be easy and be like, do the right thing, live accordingly to whatever there is that's good, you know? Like you had a lot of opportunities and you kept playing around and now here goes the warnings that I don't even know what the warnings were, but it looked very like foreboding. And when like I said, I immediately like I was already awake. I wasn't even asleep like when I saw it. Like I was awake, clearly awake. And it was like the writing was all on the wall. And like I started crying and I'm not a crier. I never cry. I'm not really okay, I cry, but for like sad movies or something, but not real life, like in real life, I'm a G. And like I started like crying, I was bawling, like I was like, oh my God, like I don't know what portal I unlocked from the heinous act that I committed, but can we close? Like I just didn't know what it was. It was like letters and symbols and words on my wall. Like and like I think I seen some of the symbols before, but I didn't know what the symbols were. And I was shocked, but not like this time. This time it was like, oh, you didn't listen to the other symbols. So here goes this whole manuscripts of words and symbols. Like I couldn't make them out on your wall. Like I tried to research online, like what could this be? Like thing was I that jacked up in my head that like that happened? And then after that, like they come like all the time now. Like, like and like just to not see them, sometimes I'll be like, well, I'm just gonna wait before I look over at any walls because it can happen on any walls. Like it can happen on in spaces, walls. It doesn't even have to be my house and they pop up. Like a lot of times I'm like glad when I don't see anything. Like I'm glad because it's like, you know what, I'm tired. I don't want to see it. I can't make it out. I don't know what these words and symbols mean. I don't know what these colors mean. I don't understand. Like, and I think one time it did say delivered. I'm not going. So if that was a good thing, I'm not going to take away from that. One time I think the words said like delivered, like then like all the other words. So I don't want to take away from that if that was something that's like, all right, you know what, like you learn your lesson now or whatever. But all I'm saying is I don't know what that could have been that I opened up in my mind. Like, what was that? Because we know when we are dreaming and we know when we are awake. Well, most of us do. Like, we can differentiate between, okay, I'm sleeping, I'm dreaming, and I'm clearly awake and I see what's going on clearly. I see what's happening clearly. I see that there are these words that I don't know on my wall, and I'm looking at them. I'm looking at these words. And then I told you, like, immediately after that dream, like, I had got a messenger from like this church group that said Jesus is living in China right now, that he's in China, and like and I don't want to say that they are wrong, and I was listening, until I think like something was like, like, nah, they it's not legit. I don't know, but something like somehow like I lost contact with the group and I just stopped reading the books that they sent and everything, because maybe like it was something like, all right, like you're not smart enough to not participate on your own, so I'm gonna pull you out of it. I mean, I know that was a lot, but I mean, this is real life, and that's why when I talk about demons and stuff, like I feel like this is real life. Like people think like, oh, like there's no way there are demons. It's just people that are bad. But I do believe that there are demons that are influencing us, having have influences on our lives. Like I was telling you about that thing in Brazil, big up to everybody in Brazil, but how they had that that parade with all those demon floats and everything, and then a flood wiped them out immediately. Like that it didn't happen too long ago. And like are we being arrogant in our evilness? Like, are we being so arrogant and evil that we think we can mock something even if we don't believe it, are we so arrogant enough that we can mock it? You know? Like, I wouldn't even go around mocking a Satanist, you know? Like, I wouldn't mock a Satanist. I'm not gonna, or I don't know, somebody who believes Hinduism or Buddhism. Like, I'm like, who am I to be mocking, something that I know nothing about? And like, who's to say that, oh, I just mock this Buddhist person or mock their belief or their religion, and then the Buddha takes me out because I was ignorant when I mocked it. Like I don't think we should go around mocking stuff. And I think like as far as like Christianity goes and stuff, like people find it easy to like mock it and be like, oh, Jesus died on a cross and this, that, and the other, and upside down crosses and all that. I think we shouldn't mock anything that we don't understand and know about. How about we just not mock anything? Because we don't know. Like we can clearly say we don't know. We don't have the answers. We don't know. Leave it alone and let people live their lives however they see fit, as long as they aren't hurting or harming anyone. Don't pass all these judgments on people. Let people live according to what's good in their belief or even if they don't believe anything and they believe like, hey, I'm a good person. I give to the poor. I help children read, whatever it is that you do good and you just don't believe something that's structured. I say let them be, because if it was meant for them to follow A, B, or C, whatever entity or leader is in charge of A, B, and C will make sure that that person follows them in due time. Don't you agree?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's it was uh, it's a hard thing to describe, but I have ultimate and complete tolerance for religious belief. I am not going to say one way or the other if it's a waste of time or if it's worthwhile. If it exists, if it doesn't exist, they can they can do what they want. And as long as their beliefs, as you have pointed out, as long as their beliefs don't dictate that they force this upon other people, then let them be. Give them peace. But you see, there are so many of these individuals, if you could call them that, that have completely and utterly forgotten that nowhere in any of these religious books does it say go out and kill people. Go out and hate the Muslims, hate the Christians, and some of the Muslims hate each other. Some of the Christians hate each other. Everybody's hating, and why? Because it is man's interpretation. It has nothing to do with God anymore. I mean, I'm not going to say one way or the other if God exists or not, but it has nothing to do with God anymore. It has nothing to do with peace. It has nothing to do with inclusivity or passivity or respect. I mean, this is why you have all of these people, for example, believing the absolute poison that comes out of the mouths of evangelists, ones who actually proclaim Trump as their messiah. Who are these people? They are deluded. These are the demons among us. And they are spawning more demons because people believe this. And until there is a way to cure them of this disease, it's simply not going to get any better. And if Jesus is going to come back, and I've heard calculations of the year 2033, then there is going to be literally hell to pay.
And that's what confuses me about oh, do you need to like go get a drink or something? Because we can go to break. And that's what confuses me about kind of like what you think, because so do you prescribe to not Christianity but Jesus? Like, do you prescribe to that, or are you more of like maybe there's Jesus and maybe there's something else? Like, how do you navigate that? Like, how do you navigate that? Like, I find like even like not just you, but I find like even for people who say they are like atheists and stuff, they pick one or the other though. Like they like pick something, even though they don't believe something. Like, how does that work?
Well, I really can't speak for their thought processes, but as far as I am concerned, there are, like I say, certain tenets of the Bible
Mhm.
that are a prescription for peaceful coexistence. The Ten Commandments is a classic example. Some of them are maybe outdated, um, but basically, in that part of the Bible and in other parts, it outlines how you can peaceably live with your fellow man. And for example, judge not lest ye be judged. Well, I'm not about to judge anybody because who am I to be the judge? I'm just me. Or how about, you know, do unto your fellow man as you would have him do unto you. This is why I'm nice to people. I want to be treated nice in return. And I found it generally work. So there are things in the Bible that I definitely agree with. Um, but what I don't necessarily believe is, well, most of everything else. I mean,
So, oh, go ahead.
I do believe in some of the stuff that is outlined. Um, for example, the coming of the end times. There are things in there that do. What's going on now? So, I mean, it's getting to the point now where if you want to take a vacation, don't go anywhere. It's not safe.
As far as the 10 commandments, like you said, some of them could be outdated. So let's go through them. It says you have number 1, you should have no other gods before me. Outdated.
Mm, no, still relevant. In my case, I just have no other gods. I don't have a god. Like I believe in the all-pervading force in the universe. Now, of course, um, that raises the question: what does he mean by that? Does that mean that Hinduism is a heresy? Does that mean that any religion, and even though it may still advocate brotherhood, peace, inclusivity, love, all those good things, even in spite of that, because they have more than one God or a different God, then are they heretics? Like, this is the part that I fail to understand.
In my mind, and I could be wrong, but I was thinking like, yeah, other guys like that. But I was also thinking like maybe like, oh, like my cars or my money or my possessions or my drugs or I don't know, my wife or my girlfriend. Sometimes people get like um possessive about stuff and they feel like those things are more important than anything in the world, like their jewelry or I don't know, even like maybe a TV show or just something that you are more passionate about than him. I think that's what I think that means. But also like I don't know, it could mean like, you know, the Buddhist god or whatever, Buddha or like I keep saying Buddha, but not just Buddha, like what is it, Allah or like I don't know. It could mean those things, but I was thinking like things like you like take more stock in, like you put so much effort into, I don't know, your material things. That's what I was thinking. But okay, it says, you shall make no idols. Outdated.
I think actually it is. And I think it was originally referred to as graven images. Um, but that is, to me, a bit of a contradiction because what do you find in any church? A cross with
Yes,
Jesus on the
yeah.
cross. That is an idol. It's a graven image. Uh, like I don't like. He's probably referring to pagan gods, like the golden calf or the a statue of Kali or somebody like that. But um, as far as graven images go, I take that literally. You say no graven images, fine. Take down all of the things, the pictures that you think you
I
need to
agree.
kneel down in front of and worship.
Like or like the crosses and stuff. Like take
Mhm.
those down because those are graven images. And we don't know what Jesus looks like. So who is that you have that you engraved on there? So
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. It says the third one, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Outdated.
Um, well, not being religious, that's a tough call. I would say in the strictly church sense, no, it's still relevant.
I guess that would mean like, when people are like, oh my God, or I guess that like that, right? That's like,
Hmm.
or
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Keep the Sabbath day holy. Outdated.
Mhm.
What even is the Sabbath day today?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Whose religion do you subscribe to? If you're Hebrew, it's Saturday, and they are not allowed to do anything on Saturday, not even dial a telephone.
Mm.
It's not supposed to do anything on the Sabbath. For the rest of the Christians, it's Sunday. Now,
Yeah.
of course, if you want to talk about other religions, there's the Seventh Day Adventists, and there's
Mhm.
also a Saturday. In fact, it reminds me of a joke. Maybe I shouldn't be. It shouldn't be telling it.
We
But
not
anyway,
trying to get in trouble. Because
this is
people will
pure.
be like,
This is purely innocent, but it I got a laugh out of it. But anyway, the man. I'm not going to no specific religion. The man passes away, and he finds himself standing before the pearly gates with Saint Peter. And St. Peter says, well, you've been a good man and, welcome to the realm of heaven. He said, here are all the people around you and like that. And this man looked way off in the distance on a hill. There was a group of people all by themselves. And he said, who are those people? And St. Peter said, well, those are the Seventh Day Adventists. They think they're the only ones here.
I'm just saying. I mean, I guess they're making light of all of the things, like we prescribe to.
Oh, well,
Okay.
yeah, everybody's got a different heaven.
Right. Honor your father and your mother. Outdated.
Yeah, still very relevant because they are the ones who gave birth to you. They are the ones who nurtured you. They are the ones who taught you. And back in the ancient civilizations, elders were very much respected because they were the ones who passed down the stories and the knowledge.
Yeah.
But nowadays, respect for old people, well, seems to
Yeah,
be
I think
market.
yeah, people have lost respect for their elders. Like, I don't know, they like hurt elders and like push them down and stuff and like it's crazy. Eat on them. Like they don't
Scamming
even
your own parents.
yeah, like they don't even take care of them in the nursing homes and stuff. They like abuse them and torture them and stuff. I'm like, dang, what world are we living in that we are torturing people, our elders? Like,
Yeah,
you shall not murder, not outdated. That one is not outdated. You
no,
you should not commit adultery. Outdated.
not in the least.
You shall not steal, of course, not outdated. So you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor.
Yeah, well, that one's still relevant, but in
Yeah.
most cases, it's gone completely out the window.
Yeah, like, and the last one, you shall not covet. Outdated. I think I covet a lot. I really think I covet a lot. Like sometimes I think like, why don't I have that? I want that. I want that. Why can't I have that? So maybe coveting is not out there because I covet a
Mm,
lot.
it, see, and this is one thing that I had to learn myself is to differentiate between want and need, because what you want and what you need are usually two very different things. I mean, I want a brand new car, but I don't really need one. The one I've got serves me just fine. I want lots of money, but I don't need any more than I have. So, and this is what gets a lot of people into a lot of trouble,
Mhm.
because you give them a credit card and they will start buying what they want, not what they need. So coveting for coveting's sake is no good.
Yeah.
Oh, I see your dog in the background there.
I
Nice white
know.
dog.
I'm glad like she didn't bark or anything because normally she would choose violence with like now she is being calm right now. I don't know if something scared her outside. I heard like a bang or something. So I think like something scared her or something like somebody outside probably out there doing something crazy or whatever. But yeah, so I mean, I have so many more things I want to ask, but I feel like we have been on a long time. But let's just quickly go over this before we close.
Sure.
So it was this thing that says, what does the devil look like? And it says the devil is an invisible spirit person, which means that he does not have a physical appearance. I don't know. And then another depiction of him is a popular depiction of the devil is that he is a goat-like creature with horns, a tail, and a pitchfork. Some have suggested that such depictions of the devil were conceived by medieval artists who were likely influenced by folklore and ancient mythology. So I think you were saying something about that earlier. And of course the Bible has a lot of analogies of him, the angel of light, a roaring lion, a green dragon, and it says Satan keeps disguising himself as an angel of light, um, meaning he pretends to be good in order to fool people into following his teachings rather than God's. But okay, the point of all this, anyways, was that to know and understand who um Satan is, but I don't think there's any way for us to know. Like, all we know is that we think he is evil, right? Because that's what we learned, that he is evil. But we don't know for sure if some of the things he does are good. Like, is he inherently bad? Like, is everything that he does bad? Or does he sprinkle in a little goodness? Like, is Satan just like everyone, like where we do some good things, we do some bad things? Or is he just all bad and trying to get all the bad things done to accomplish his goal of taking over everything? Like, I mean, and I guess I would have to read like the manuals I was telling you about, which I probably won't read because again, I don't want to be opening up stuff. But I mean, I just wish I knew. Like, I know he is known as the great deceiver, of course, like deceiving, fooling people, tricking people. But like, is there ever a time where he's like, you know what, I want to be good today and I am gonna help this person get a job, or I am gonna, you know, like, and I don't expect anything in return. I'm just helping out. Like, Is that weird? Like, like, do you think he ever helps anyone? Or do you think it's like, oh, I'm helping you for a price? Do you think it's like that?
I think it's like that. Um, I see. This is one of the things about, we'll call it history, for lack of any better term. Um, History is usually written through the eyes of the victor, not the vanquished. So what we're getting is a one-sided account. We've never actually heard Lucifer's side of it. We've heard God's side of it. That's what the Bible is. But we've never heard Lucifer's side of it, and we probably never will. So in that case, I would say that the stuff you read there is going to be probably a little bit biased, but going on the yin yang principle of the universe, there is either all good or all bad. There is no gray area. It's either one or the other. Have you ever seen the yin yang symbol?
Yeah, it's like black and like a
It's like an S curve.
yeah, black and white, right?
I believe it is,
Or
yes. And to get to one side from the other, you always have to go through one area. So you have to go through the yin to get the yang, or you have to go through the yang to get the yin. You can't escape it. And this is basically how I view the Bible, is that the account is of basically of an evil, completely, totally, absolutely evil, as told by supposedly the completely, totally, absolutely good person or party. And it's a tough call. Who knows? Um, it's it's something that is, well, I don't think it can even be judged. And it just well, that reminds me of a story, and I'll try and keep it brief.
no, you're fine.
But it involves the history of the jack-o'-lantern, and this story originates in ancient Ireland about a man named Stingy Jack, and he lived up to his name, and he was not well liked by the villagers. One night, he and the devil went to the pub to have a drink. Stingy Jack had no money, so he asked the devil if he could change himself into a coin so he could pay for the drink. The devil said, sure. So Stingy Jack immediately took the coin, put it in his pocket right next to a crucifix, trapping Satan in the form of a coin. Kept him there for a year. Finally decided to let him go. So later on, a similar situation arises, and Stingy Jack tricks Satan again. He says, I can't climb that tree. There's a nice juicy apple up there. Would you get it for me? So the devil says, sure. Devil goes up into the tree. Stingy Jack carves a cross into the tree base. The devil can't come down because he can't pass the crucifix. 5 years later, Stingy Jack finally decides to let him go. So the day comes when Stingy Jack passes away. God doesn't want him in heaven because he's a sneak. The devil doesn't want him in hell because of being tricked. So Stingy Jack, thanks to the devil, was basically sentenced to walk the earth with only a lump of burning coal as a light. And in order not to be harassed or attacked by Stingy Jack, people carved jack-o'-lanterns, Jack of the Lantern. And that was all in aid of keeping Jack away from their house. So anyway, what it comes down to is, was the devil in it for his own gain? Well, it doesn't seem like it, because he didn't want Jack's soul. He didn't want Jack in hell, period.
Right.
God, God didn't want him either. So he was basically banished to walk the earth forever as a disembodied spirit, I guess. So in that respect, um, I would say that maybe in just that case, the devil was not evil, but rather showed some degree of stupidity.
Yeah.
To be tricked by a mere mortal, that's doesn't look too good on your job record. So
Yeah. I mean, and there. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, in all other respects, to the best of my knowledge, she's been portrayed as and probably is completely evil.
Well, I know, like in the book of Job, we got to see how he got to negotiate with God. Like your servant is so good and respects you so much, God, is because you give him everything. Take it away, and he will curse you. He will hate you. And God, he entertains that. He's like, okay, Satan, I will take everything from him and let's see what my servant does. And come to find out, his servant did not hate him. He still worshiped. He still said thank you, even though he killed off his entire family. He took all his money and everything. His servant did not follow Satan. Even his own wife told him, like, you should curse God and die. Like, you want to die right now and you can't even die. Like, go ahead and curse God and get this over with. And he still followed God. Like, he didn't give in. He didn't give in after he lost everything. And sometimes I think, like, man, is that a real story? Because I feel like today we are not strong enough to go through all that. Like, to lose everything at once, just to be sick after you lose everything, to be so sick you want to die and you can't die. Like, what person can actually endure that? I just feel like, I mean, that for a person, the story of Job is like, no way one man can endure all that and still. I mean, we want to say, oh, of course I will still, serve you, God, but we want to say that. And I'm sure there are Christians, many Christians who would say, like, yeah, I could do that too. I call BS. I say as soon as you lose your first car or your house or whatever, you already like, you know what, God, I can't do this anymore. But anyway, finally, I'm just gonna close with this. Does Satan have a Bible? Right? Because we were talking a lot about the Bible and the lessons from the Bible or whatever. So I was just wondering, does Satan have a Bible? And it says the Satanic Bible is a collection of essays composed and compiled in 1969 by Anton LaVey, detailing the basic fundamental satanic rituals and ideology. Its proponents regard the Satanic Bible as the foundation of the satanic paradigm, while maintaining that the book is not subject to revision nor interpretation, and that no ritual or ideology contrary to what is depicted in the Satanic Bible is compatible with Satanism. The vast majority of Satanists do not even believe in the existence of a personal being named Satan. Rather, Satan is a symbol of struggle against a tyrannical God. The Satanic Bible is divided into four books, namely the books of Satan, the book of Lucifer, the book of Belial, and finally the book of Leviathan. It is generally believed that LaVey obtained this hierarchy from the book of the sacred magic of Abramelin, the Maj, in which the above four demons are said to be chiefs of hell. Each book addresses a different principle of Satanism and serves a unique purpose within the book as a whole. The Satanic Bible builds upon the traditional secular humanistic philosophy that each individual can be his or her own God. This leads to the arrogant and self-centered worldwide that man on his own can determine truth independent of any notion of God or higher authority. This is clearly in sharp contrast with the biblical teaching that we will be held accountable to God for all things we have done in this life, and is the same deception which Satan fed Eve in the Garden of Eden, asserting that you will be like God, knowing good and evil. The Satanic Bible argues that sin is an inherent part of mankind's character and is, for the most part, not immoral or shameful. The argument goes that Christianity chose carefully such actions, which are part of mankind's instinctual drive to declare as a sin, in order to ensure man's continued dependence on Christ and his mercy. LaVey argues that sin in the biblical sense is to be encouraged rather than frowned upon. Conversely, the Bible teaches that sin is indeed an inherent part of human nature, for the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? The Bible makes it emphatically clear that the ultimate consequences of sin is death and eternal separation from God, and also offers words of encouragement. No temptation has seized you except that is common to man, and God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear, but when you are tempted, He will also provide a way out so you can stand up under it. Same sex relationships and other forms of sexuality or moral behavior are openly condoned by the Satanic Bible. Oh, so, like in the Satanic Bible, like same sex is cool. And on page 69 of the Satanic Bible, LaVey states that Satanism encourages any form of sexual expression you may desire so long as it hurts no one else. This is also expressly in conflict with the Bible, which makes it abundantly clear that the place of sexual relation is exclusively within the context of marriage, which is intended by God as a relationship between one man and one woman for life, and commands us to flee from sexual immorality. All other sins a man commits are outside his body, and he who sins sexually sins against his own body. Do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You were bought at a price, therefore honor God. So basically, the teachings of the Satanic Bible concerning the existence of the afterlife is that there is no such thing as the afterlife after death, and thus life must be lived to the fullest in the world. This is the premise on which many of the satanic teachings are based, or it removes the element of accountability. However, it indicates that man is destined to die once, and after that, to face judgment. There are two ultimate afterlife destinations, heaven and hell. After death, the determination of where one will spend eternity is absolute and final. So I guess like Satanists believe that everything that's happening will happen here and there's nothing after that. Like whatever. So have fun now because it's nothing to do after this. Like, we're doing everything here now. And finally, in conclusion, the Satanic Bible and its pertaining dogma is to be considered diametrically opposed to the key principles of Christianity. The Satanic religion is based on unbiblical, false doctrines. Well, that's what they say. And so basically, they're just putting their opinion on it. So basically, it's just opposite. Everything is opposite. Christianity says it's bad. Satanists say it's good, kind of thing. Like no sex outside of marriage. Sex it doesn't matter. You want to have sex and you're two women, go for it. It's all. It just seems like just opposites. It doesn't seem like there's any like. Well, from that little bit that I read, that is anything dramatic about it. That is like what makes that lifestyle better than the other. But that's all I will say in closing. Do you have any final words?
Um, just a few, just a few. I'll keep it short.
No problem.
First of all, what I believe in is yes, there is an afterlife. And the way it works is this is that while we live, we are the captives of and under the dominion of our own hormones. Our brain is what determines who we are and how we live. And in our corporeal form, in our flesh form, we are subject to all manner of ills. We are tempted. We are revolted. We can do good. We can do evil. We can do all manner of things while we live. But as I say, when you do good, good things happen. When you do bad, bad things will happen to you. And this is where the wages of sin could well be death. They could be something else. But once we die, and once we are free of our bodies, once we're free of these chemicals and hormones that course through our veins and go into our brains and make us do all these silly things and do all of these dumb decisions and all of these cruel actions, once we're free of all of that, we will achieve what I think everyone is entitled to is a final and lasting peace.
Eternal peace. That was well said. Well said. Even if you don't prescribe to all of the elements of Christianity, everyone, I believe, would want some type of eternal peace, and no one wants to feel like this is the end all be all. Like, I don't even believe that a rich person would want this to be the end all be all. And I definitely don't believe someone who wants more out of life, who wish they had more, would want this to be the end all be all. But with that being said, I really appreciate you being here today. I don't have a lot of followers, and you did this with me anyways. Like this was perfect. Like I couldn't have imagined any other person to do it with first but you, because you seem to be very interested in whatever topics I wanted to talk about. You noticed that I really wanted to do this, so I appreciate it. Like I can't thank you enough, and I do hope that you would return. I would really appreciate that. So
Well, two things. It was a pleasure, and yes, I will.
thank you so much. So, with that being said, everyone, my very first guest, Ken, said he will return eventually. No pressure. So, if you didn't catch the live, please be sure to catch the replay. And if there's anything that you wanted to say about this viewing, please let us know. We both appreciate that you guys were here. So, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and end us out of here. So,
This is it.
this is
Is
it.
it. It's been fun. It's been fun, Jen.